So today is Saturday, December 17th, 2016. We're heading towards the very end of the year, and we will continue today with our reading and commenting on the 12th century Zen ox herding pictures, such a profound and poetic document. Uh, and we're in very profound territory with it today. We've come to the eighth picture, uh, complete oblivion of ox and herdsman. So let's again start with the poems and then look at Master Otsu's commentary and then comment on those as we go. Complete oblivion of ox and herdsman. All worldly desires have fallen away, and at the same time, the meaning of holiness has become completely empty. Do not linger where the Buddha dwells. Go quickly past the place where no Buddha dwells. Uh, Important points. Let me just pause here in this introductory verse. Do not linger where the Buddha dwells. Zen is really quite interesting in this regard, not to get caught up in devotional relations to the Buddha, but to realize what is Buddha? What is Buddha nature? What is my own self? But please hurry past the place where there is no Buddha. That's not it either. What is it then? What is it to realize our own nature? A monk once asked Zhao Chu, does even a dog have Buddha nature? Zhao Chu answered, Mu. Do not linger where the Buddha dwells. Go quickly past the place where no Buddha dwells. If a person is no longer attached to either, what is innermost in him or her can no longer be seen into, not even by him who has 1,000 eyes. That's a reference to Avalokiteshvara with 1,000 helping hands, the Bodhisattva of great wisdom and compassion. An eye in every one of those 1,000 hands, because a helping hand only with sentiment motivating it is likely to do great harm. But with an eye of wisdom, non-duality, of insight, guiding that help, then good things have a chance of actually happening from it. But even the great Bodhisattva can no longer really see where you're at if you don't linger in either of those two places. Very interesting. Holiness, to which birds consecrate flowers, is just a disgrace. As we'll see a little bit later in the commentaries on the verses, there's a story of a great Zen master at some point doing zazen in his hermitage up on the mountain, radiating such holiness that the birds would bring him bits of food, flowers, give him all these wonderful little gifts. But when he really realized that, when he didn't linger in the place where the Buddha is, even that sense of realized holiness, then the birds no longer brought him flowers or food. He was quite ordinary. This is very profound territory. Now the verses, the poems. Whip and rein, all the work of practice, the whips and the reins, the guidance and the pressures we put on ourselves to continue. Whip and rein, ox and herdsman. The herdsman, the one here doing the work. The ox, our own nature, we're trying to wake to and guide along into integration with our ordinary life, have completely vanished without a trace. It's all gone. In the vast blue sky, words can never suffice to measure him. How could snow survive in the flames of a great fire? All melted away. All thoughts of me, you, only justice remains. What is that? Only when a person has succeeded in getting to this place can he or she match the old masters. Very lofty encouragement here. Only when you've gotten to this place can we say that someone has matched the old masters. Poem 2, Shame. Previously, I wanted to save the whole world. What a surprise. There is no longer a world to save. Words cannot express how things are with the herdsman in this realm. Predecessor, successor, here there is neither. Riddle, who can inherit this truth? Who pass it on? What a challenge, really, so profound. Words cannot express how things are with the herdsman in this realm. How is it when there is no self, no other? How present must one be in such a condition? No longer lurking back in your ruminations of I'm here and that's what's going on, and when this is done, I'm doing that. What happens when you're completely present? Awake, not in a dream. What if the dream is oneself? Words cannot express how it is for the herdsman at this point. Or herdswoman. What a surprise! I wanted to save the whole world. I found there is no world to save. That is, there's nothing separate from my own nature. Doesn't mean we stop doing our best to be of help. That would be a big mistake. Poem 3. With one blow, the vast sky suddenly breaks into pieces. Even emptiness is banished. As Yamada Roshi used to say, he was Iken Roshi's teacher and a peer of Kappa Roshi for quite a time. Yamada Roshi is, if you read the Three Pillars, he's that first very profound enlightenment experience. He was a businessman, manager of a hospital, business manager of a hospital. His wife was a surgeon there, a doctor there. Lived a lay life completely and ran a lay Zendo. He said, in Zen, you must beat the empty sky. Even emptiness isn't enough. Vast, empty, blue sky. Not a cloud in it, not a thought in the mind. No, go past that. Emptiness breaks into 1,000 pieces. One blow, the vast sky suddenly breaks into pieces. Holy, worldly, both vanished without trace. In the untreadable ends the way. This is a genuine experience, not a nothing, without concepts, because that too is a concept. Worldly, holy, all gone. But you don't have a concept of it's all gone. That would be just another concept. The bright moon shines and the wind rustles in front of the temple. All waters of all rivers flow into the great sea. Even our own piddling little streams flow into the great sea. The bright moon shines and the wind rustles in front of the temple. There's an introductory koan that takes us in a little different direction. It says, in front of the old temple, a dog is pissing to the sky. Are these different? So now we'll look at the commentaries on this eighth series. Well, let's see. The picture for the eighth is the Enso, the circle, the famous Zen circle. Nothing. Whole and complete, not like nothing, but a circle, whole and complete, enclosing nothing at all. So, let's see. The particular nature of Zen, as it was first described, not to rely on words, particular transmission outside the teaching, to point directly at man's or woman's heart, to see into one's own original nature and become Buddha, lies precisely in complete oblivion of both ox and herdsman. Starting with Kashyap's smile, that's Mahakashyapa was the first patriarch or elder of Zen from the Buddha. We do Mahakashyapa and then Ananda in the ancestral line once we get to Shakyamuni Buddha after the 7 previous Buddhas. When Shakyamuni held up the flower, Zen was handed down by 28 Indian patriarchs until it reached Bodhidharma. The latter brought it to China, where it was handed down to the 6th patriarch, Wei Neng. 5 Zen sects arose after his transmission. The Yunmen, Rinzai, Shaosung, Wei Yang, and Faiyan sects, but only the Rinzai tradition has been handed down without a break until today. Well, Otsu must be a Rinzai teacher because also there's the Shaosung, which is Soto in Japan. The particular nature of Zen lies outside the Buddhist doctrine and neither allows nor needs intellect or learning. It depends on, and it's a quote, he's got this in quotes, detachment of the whole life and at the same time on the detached life. In completely forgetting ox and herdsmen. Let's see. The pupil does not honor the holy masters or treasure his own spirit. It's not because they're not to be honored. They are honored. It's just that they're not held as something above or different than one's own deepest, truest nature, because he's arrived where they've arrived, or she's arrived where they've arrived. This is full awakeness. So there's no one left to honor outside one's own nature. Shakyamuni, when he was born, it said the Buddha raised one hand up to the heavens, pointed the other down to the earth, and said, above the heavens, below the heavens, I'm the only honored one. It wasn't a statement of egotism. It was exactly the opposite. Nothing but self, wherever I look. No separation. Very profound, absolute condition. The heart becomes empty, the situation quiet, the body just as it is. At the chant, at the end of Hakuin's chant in praise of Zazen, we recite, this very body, the body of Buddha. What do you think that means? If they're not just words in a chant, how do we live that? What are those words pointing to? Does it mean we get long earlobes and bulge on the top of our head? Get a permanent half smile on our face? Are always calm? don't get liver spots or arthritis? What does it mean, this very body, the body of Buddha? It doesn't mean someone else's body. What could it possibly mean? The particular nature of Zen, as I said, lies outside the Buddhist doctrine. So on from there, the heart becomes empty, the situation quiet, and the body just as it is. When someone succeeds in reaching this point, the mirror of the heart shines clearly and one's nature opens wide and clear. They leave error and do not attach to truth. They leave error but do not attach to truth. They dwell neither in error nor awakening. They are neither worldly nor holy. All worldly desires fall away. And at the same time, the meaning of holiness is emptied without residue. A holy person who makes a deal of their being holy is not a holy person. Such detachment from everything is what Master Rinzai called the complete robbing of both, of man and of object, person and of object, self and other. Rob it away. A teacher's job is to steal everything you've got. We're very grateful to our teachers. Steal it all away. The pupil experiences absolute notness since noumenon and phenomenon, self and object allow themselves to come to nothing. What could that mean? Come to nothing. What is it to come to nothing? Many cases of the inverses to the Wumen Quan, gateless barrier, or Mumen Kan as it's known in Japanese. Zen Master Wu Men says, it's all a farce. It all comes to nothing. But this is not a statement of despair. What's his point? There's something so wonderful in it. Genuine Zen experience consists exclusively in this robbing of self and other, person and object. It's not about gaining more wonderful thoughts. Well, there's nothing wrong with insights. It's not about becoming more learned about Buddhist doctrine, though there's nothing wrong with being knowledgeable about one's own tradition. But that's not where the salvation, if with lack of a better word, of Zen comes from. Those are ways of using it. But this robbing, take it all away. What's there? If you know children's books at all, that was my former life, a children's book author. There was a terrific whole series of books illustrated by Maurice Sendak that our kids grew up on. We used to sell in our bookstore, the Oxcart Bookshop, which was the Little Bear books. It was written by Elsie Holmes Minarek and illustrated early on in his career by the great Maurice Sendak. One of those stories in the Little Bear collection is Little Bear's Wish. Little Bear wants to have all kinds of things, and his mother says, "Oh, Little Bear, you can't have that wish." And then, if I remember it correctly, it's been quite a while since I've looked at it, he wants a warm fur coat because it's snowing outside. And first he's wanted a hat and all kinds of things. He's all bundled up, and she takes off his hat, and she takes off his coat, she takes off his mittens and his boots, and then she says, if I remember it correctly, it's sort of like this. It's much better in the book. A little illustrated story. And when she's got all his stuff gone, she says, "There's your fur coat. Now you'll always be warm." And he went out in the snow and he was. His coat was there all along. She took all his stuff away and he found out what he had from the start. Uh, this is pure Soto Zen, uh, we might say, in a children's book. I recommend you take a look at it if you want some encouragement. Easy to swallow sometime. This complete notness is the original place from which all thinking and knowing spring. But even if one is permitted to speak of a place at all, such terminology is only provisional. It's not a place. It's not a thing. Even if one wanted to characterize it as unbornness, or as nirvana, or as the truth, one could never hit it. Those are all concepts. By the way, nirvana means blown out, like a candle blown out by the wind. When it's all gone, all your passions, all your delusive, self-centered thoughts. Same point, when it's all gone, what's there? Nirvana. But don't make it a thing. It lies beyond all terminology and expression. Thinking cannot reach that far. Master Toksan once said, if you can say it, you will get 30 blows. And if you cannot say it, you will get 30 blows just the same. Now the forward. The pupil first shattered the realm of worldly desires and passions and then broke into the realm of holiness at the 7th stage. She or he is unburdened of the realm of holiness at the 8th stage. He is neither worldly nor holy. She is able to inherit the wisdom life of the Buddhas and masters for the first time. She is above all Buddhas and masters. He has become a Zen pupil who has passed through the one great matter of necessity. All worldly passions, fame, fortune, recognition, ownership, stuff that makes us special or important, all worldly passions fall away. Doesn't mean we don't have things. Gave Teshas on Vimalakirti from the Vimalakirti Sutra. He was a wealthy person at the time of the Buddha, very engaged in all aspects of life in his city of Vaisali, and yet his understanding was said to be the same level as the Buddha's, a layperson. He is neither worldly nor holy. He is above all Buddhas and masters. He's become a Zen pupil who has passed through the one great matter of necessity. All worldly passions finally fall away, and the meaning of holiness empties itself completely, without residue. Holiness, too, is already something special. A stain on our original nature. Already too much. The place where the Buddha dwells is the world of difference in which all beings persist. The herdsman must not tarry there. There's a little different interpretation of it. Of course, everything is open to interpretation. The place in which no Buddha lives is the realm of non-difference, in which no nature or beings are treasured. I see that point, and I think it's an interesting point in both cases. The place where the Buddha dwells is the world of difference, the 10,000 things in which all beings are, just what they are, exactly, unique, never to be seen again, perfect as they are, different. The herdsman must not tarry there. The place in which no Buddha lives is the realm of non-difference, we might say emptiness, in which no nature or beings are treasured. Nothing is other than one's own nature. The herdsman must go quickly past it, too. The herdsman must go quickly past it. Master Yongchia says in the Song of the Experience of the Way, even the true is not treasured. In the primordial era is empty. When being and not being are dropped together, even the not empty, which is the true, empties itself. Ultimately, Masaratsu goes on, there is nothing relative that would be recognized as relative, nothing absolute that would be valued simply as such. Through the relative, there is the absolute, and through the absolute, there is the relative, as we say it in our chanting of the Prajna Paramita form, is only emptiness. Emptiness, no other than form. These are not two worlds. We mistake the relative when we recognize it as simply such. We mistake the absolute when we value it simply as such. In the complete oblivion of ox and herdsman, the relative such as such and the absolute as such are removed. Form is only emptiness. Emptiness only form. That's quite philosophical, isn't it? The red of this flower, the smell of this incense. Tell me, is that form or emptiness? In turning to neither of the two means all opposition, whether it is of then and now, Buddha and devil, non-difference and difference. No way of thinking or talking leads into the innermost of that which does not remain attached to either. In the Song of Believing the Heart, which we haven't done, but we do it as verses on the faith mind when we do it, the third patriarch says, do not remain attached to either of the two. Do not search for them. If someone is attached to right and wrong, even to the least extent, his heart gets lost in the tangle. But be careful. They interject. This does not mean we live without right and wrong. The three general resolutions which we will vow to uphold in the Jukai ceremony is, these three are the three general resolutions that begin the ground of our practice. I vow to avoid evil. I vow to do good. I vow to save the many beings. So this doesn't mean you're caught up in the tangle of right and wrong mentally. It does mean, though, that you understand there is right and wrong, and you choose to do right. Please don't think, oh, it's all the same. It doesn't matter what I do. It's all empty. Much evil has come out of that. Much self-centeredness. The two exist only through the one, but do not cling even to the one. If no attached thinking remains, then there is no error in beings. There is no attached thinking to myself. We see this in the world in front of us, in the newspapers and internet every day right now. The attachment to myself is taken over the politics of our world. This is not healthy. This is exactly the opposite of what practice is about. We should all be concerned. Do our best. Do something better than that. The quotation about birds who consecrate flowers is from the following legend. Master Nitu, pronouncing it terribly, the spiritual heir of the fourth patriarch, Dao Xin, once sat on, Dao Xin would be like Dao, mind, way mind. Once sat in a stone cave near Yuchi-Si Temple, close to Mount Nitu, and trained assiduously. Many birds came and consecrated flowers to him to praise his unusual virtue. Later, when he had gained the nature of Zen from the fourth patriarch, that is, had a deeper clarification of realization, they no longer brought him any flowers. The person to whom birds consecrate flowers is still attached to holiness. He has not yet reached complete oblivion of herdsman and ox, of one's own nature and the one doing the practice. The one doing the practice is the person. The nature that underlies it all, that carries that very person, is the ox. all of that's gone. Then what's there? We don't become a puddle. First poem. In the primordial there is no dust. In the great ocean of truth no wave beats. All sutras and koans are left behind without residue, and wisdom and nirvana have also become useless. That's how ordinary we are then. Wow. This is Master Rinzai's robbing of man and object, or self and other. The borders between the realms of the Buddha and the devil, between then and now, have disappeared. It has become clear and transparent everywhere. At the moment when self and koan become one, there is no longer self or koan. There is no having become one anymore, and not even there is not anymore. Thinking can never measure this region. An old Chinese poem says, from my homeland, from my husband, who went northwards towards the river Bai Lang Ho, there is suddenly no letter. South of the Dan Feng Cheng castle, where I await his return, the autumn night is long. So interesting how Zen teachers could take colloquial works and find in it great dialogues of our own nature, the nature of the self. From my husband, who went northwards across the river, there is suddenly no letter. South of the castle, where I await his return, the autumn night is long. It said that Chinese poetry really gives us the flavor of Zen. I think that's true. Something seeps into us through that. Complete oblivion of ox and herdsman is the last gate on the way of ascending. The great fire glows in which all beings are burned up. If he meets the Buddha, he kills the Buddha. If he meets the master, he kills the master. Now, let's get clear on that. Those are lines from Wu Men's commentary on the Koan Mu. If he meets the Buddha, he kills the Buddha. If he meets the master, he kills the master. Rinzai also used that same language. Now, it doesn't mean if you meet the Buddha, you kill the Buddha. It doesn't even mean if you have a thought of the Buddha, you wipe it out. Those are really, I think, pretty mundane interpretations. I think comes closer to the mark of when you've realized your own mind. There's no reason for images of those guys to stick around. That's killing the Buddha. Waking up to your nature as the nature of Buddhas, ants, trees. There's no place for the Buddha to stick around in your mind as something outside you, something particularly lofty. This is to kill the Buddha. Doesn't mean, oh, if a thought of Buddha comes up, you chop it down. Could mean that, but that seems to me kind of mundane. It doesn't mean, well, if the Buddha appears, you ignore him. In one sense, that's true. If you're having Makyo images of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, you don't try and get rid of them. They're just like any other thought in the mind. You pay attention to your practice. Eventually, they'll wobble away. But I think the point is deeper. Awaken to your own nature. All of that stuff is gone. It's like a dream. It's a dream that's we've fallen into, very fortunately, because it's a dream that helps us to wake up from our own dreams. It's valued deeply, yet we can't cling to it our whole life and go, oh, it's so precious, I'll make offerings to the Buddha. That's true, that's true. But we have to take a step beyond that. Realize what they realized. The great haiku poet Basho said, I do not seek to imitate the old worthies, the great old guys of long ago. I seek what they sought. So we have to find it in our own way. That's killing the Buddha. I seek what they sought. I don't seek to imitate them. I seek what they sought. Good and bad, right and wrong, wisdom and error, all pass quickly away without residue. Like a great fire, all the snowflakes that clog our mind are melted away. Thoughts of me melted away. What might life be like then? The only way to find out is to keep going. Keep your fire lit. What's the line from Game of Thrones? Winter is coming. Please keep your fire lit. Melt it away. Melt it away. Good and bad, right and wrong, wisdom and error, all pass quickly away without residue, like snow in the flame of the fire. Then the mind does not cling to thoughts, no matter how wonderful, or repeat ancient habits of resentments and circle around the old loops, all melted away. And this moment, naked, unknown, what is it? Oh, never repeatable. This very moment is. How mysterious. The fifth, it doesn't matter what volume or whatever it is, Master Qingbi once visited the tomb of the sixth patriarch in Lingnan. Afterwards, he went to see Master Shido. When the latter asked him, "Where have you come from?" Qingbi replied, "From Lingnan." Shido further asked, "Has your training in Lingnan been completed?" Qingbi answered, "A long time ago, but it lacks I, E-Y-E. Then Shido said, "Do you need an I so as to put it in?" Qingbi now asked for instruction. "Do you need an I?" "Long ago, your nature. Long ago, from the very beginning," says Hakuin, "all beings are Buddha." That means you, me, an ant. From the very beginning, Qingbi says, he's asked, "Has your training been completed?" He says, "A long time ago. In the very beginning, I've had it, but it still needs an I, but I'm not awake to it." Doesn't that sound familiar? At some point in our practice, we gain some faith that maybe I do have this nature. It's been there from the very beginning. What is my face before my parents were even born? Is a little koan that we investigate early on in our practice if we're doing koan practice. I have some faith that it's there, but I'm not awakened to it yet. I don't have the I. Whereupon Master Shidu, who was sitting cross-legged, that is, in lotus, stretched out one of his legs flat on the floor. Qingbi bowed. Shidu asked him, "You bow. What have you seen?" Qingbi answered, "According to my insight, it is like snow on the red, hot hearth. Everything's gone. All thoughts of self and other. My whole history. Gone. Snow on a red-hot hearth. What is it to be awake, to be present? It's not something we gain. If we take all that stuff away, what's there?" Second poem. Oh no, only in the place where, is the very end of this one. Only in the place above all Buddhas and all masters can the herdsman equal the nature of Zen. The nature and life of Zen lies precisely in complete oblivion of herdsmen and ox. Again, this is not nothing, this complete oblivion. The incense smells sweet. The flower is red. The sky is eyes blue. My knees hurt from sitting a long time. Second poem. Up to now, I wanted to save all worldly beings and took the care of training on myself, using many sutras and koans. Having managed to get there, I look back at myself, and to my great astonishment, all worldly beings have already been completely Buddha since the beginning. As Hakuin says, from the very beginning, all beings are Buddha. We just don't have the eye to see it. This is what our Zen practice is about. Not giving us our nature, which we've had from the beginning, giving us the eye to see it. That's all. We don't gain anything. But it takes perseverance, fortitude, dedication to open that eye. But we don't gain the nature of Buddha. We open our eye to what's always been there. Even the cat and the spoon have the wisdom and virtue of Buddha concealed in them. I am deeply ashamed of my former presumptuous wish. The many beings are numberless. I vow to free them all. What a profound perspective to look back at that and say, what a presumptuous wish that should make us ashamed. What is the realization that would allow us to feel such shame and yet to not abandon that vow? I resolve to do good. I resolve to avoid evil. I resolve to save the many beings. This remains the three great general resolutions of Zen Buddhist practice. We cannot help shuddering at this juncture. Thanks, but it would be an utter disgrace to let all worldly beings come to nothing. In this region, there is nothing that comes and nothing that goes, no birth, no death, no endless succession of thoughts. The beginningless past and the infinite future are enclosed in the now, which fills the whole cosmos beyond time and space. In the context of now, Shakyamuni was not born, and Bodhidharma did not come to China. Complete directness reigns. Just this, Aiken Roshi used to say. Just this. Just this. Slap his thigh. Just this. It is said that the one way of ascending is such that not even a saint could transmit it, but it must be transmitted. Kashyapa smiled when Shakyamuni held up the flower. Did handing down and inheriting take place? No. Did not any inheriting or handing down take place? Yes, they did. That is how it stands with the transmission of non-transmission. Ananda later asked his teacher, Mahakashyapa, did Shakyamuni hand down a truth apart from the brocade robe? And if so, which one? Kashyapa cried out, Ananda. When the latter answered yes, Kashyapa told him, throw down the flagpost in front of the gate. Ananda had been, or was, awakened. This is also an example of the transmission of non-transmission. As you know, in July, I received transmission from my teacher, Dainin Henry Roshi. What was transmitted? Third poem. The great sky breaking into pieces means the complete oblivion of herdsmen and ox. Those who shattered it were, among others, Bodhidharma with his cry, vast emptiness, nothing holding. Jiao Chu with his mu. Hakuin with his sound of the single hand. Bonke with his unborn. Yun Men with his almost meaningless words like gu and i. And Rinzai with his cuts. There is an old Zen saying, there is no roof over the head and no earth under the feet. There is no roof over the head. There is no earth under the feet. Don't put a roof on your head. Don't stick stuff under your feet to walk on the same old road you've taken every day. The way ends in the untreadable, yet the pupil must not stand still where the way ends. There is a turning in the untreadable, and a new way, or rather the old one, suddenly opens out. The bright moon shines in front of the temple, and there is a rustling wind. How beautiful, how ordinary, how not special, neither holy nor worldly. The bright moon shining right now in front of the temple. And there is a rustling wind. Can you feel it? The famous Zen saying is, into the clearest, the tips of the grass, into the clearest, the mind of the master. The Buddha nature is present even in the tips, the blades of grass. Men and women, young and old, pan and kettle, cat and spoon, each one flows back into the world of Buddha, or rather has become Buddha, as it already is. The lifting of the toilet seat makes a creak of a sound. Everything flows back into this very moment, which can't be confined by a single thought. Everything flows back into Buddha. Bright moon shines on the temple. The wind rustles through the grasses. However, even he who has broken into this realm, or seeped into this realm, or fallen into this realm, or dragged herself into this realm, or leapt into this realm, or however that person got there, must still hammer at himself or herself up until he is laid in his coffin, and beyond that, into all future lives. Even Shakyamuni and Bodhidharma are still in the middle of this training. As Zen puts it, even the great Shakyamuni is only halfway there. The practice continues endlessly, but it becomes selfless practice, not self-centered practice, and it continues endlessly. The wish of the real Buddha lies in ceaseless ascending. The teachings of the truth are inexhaustible. We vow to learn them all. The way of the Buddha is incomparable. We vow to tread it to the end. These are our last two of our great vows for all. Dharma gates are countless. I vow to wake to them all. Buddha's way is unattainable. I vow to embody it fully. These are impossible tasks, but as the great sculptor Henry Moore once said when he was asked the meaning of life, he said, you must have something that's impossible to achieve. You must work at it with all you've got every day.